What is the closest non-sexual thing to an orgasm you have experienced? That one time I used a neti pot and the sinus infection that had been ruining my life for the past week came out in one glorious blob. I swear to God it was like the size of a softball. All one gelatinous blob. I cried. Amazing. This happened to me on a smaller scale last week. After my last ear/sinus infection, my doctor recommended an ET pot. Cleared the gunk right out and helped me heal faster. So I kept it around. The other day, my throat hurt really bad and I was scared I was getting an infection. So I used my ET pot. Some gross junk came out and my throat felt like heaven afterwards. I've had that happen to me a few years back. I had a stuffy nose for weeks. One morning I decided to put my face under running hot water and that probably loosened the blob that was stuck in there. A full-on oyster came out. It was gross, fascinating, and so relieving at the same time. I had Rocky Mountain spotted fever and was lost in a brutal heat pain delirium for several days. When the fever broke, I was immediately drenched in sweat and felt a relief that was damn near orgasmic. I'm in a region that has Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and I spend a whole lot of time out in the woods. I keep an eye on all tick bites. Once I got into a bunch of sea ticks. Worst day ever. I was wearing long socks, and when I took them off my calves looked like they were covered in thousands of poppy seeds. I had to literally scrape thousands of these darn sea ticks off my leg with a credit card with my foot hanging out of a car window on the way home. I'm a big proponent of DEET now though. I didn't need to know that this was a thing that could happen, thanks. Getting my ear flushed out with warm water. Years ago I used one of those beeswax candle things that supposedly suck wax out of your ear when you light them on fire. Well, some of the ash floated down into the cone and hit my eardrum. So I went to the doctor and they flushed it out with a warm solution, and it was the most satisfying feeling I've ever felt to date, orgasm aside. I have an intermittent issue with earwax clogging my ears. Once upon a time it was so bad it actually completely clogged one ear. I went to an urgent care clinic and they set about unclogging it. 15 minutes on my side, listening to the snap crackle pop as the chemical softens it up. Nurse comes in, moves my head, positions my ear over one of those kidney shaped trays, starts using her syringe with more force than I would have expected. Sounds weird. Borderline painful. Who shouldn't a plug the size of a freaking nickel is in the tray? I have the same issue. My body makes tons of earwax. It's all dry. And I have tiny ears and tinier ear canals. I have to get my ears irrigated if you will, every few months. My right one is due for an irrigation right now actually. When I first found out it was a problem, it was during a wrestling match. I knew there were only a few seconds left of the match, so I shot in for my takedown to seal the win. Not hearing anything, thinking it was just adrenaline. And once I finished the takedown I heard a really loud buzz. Figured it was the whistle. I walked towards the center to get my hand raised when I see the crowd pointing and screaming, and my coach jumping and screaming his head off. The other guy was still on the ground, confused, so I just jumped back on. Afterwards I found my family and told them my cold ear, and they brought me to the ER and found out my ears were just so damn clogged. They ended up giving me this stuff. Forget what it's called, and I'm too lazy to go grab it, but it's actually a liquid laxative, and I soak my ears canals with it for 15 minutes, and it feels wonderful. Then I get a huge hypodermic needle thing, minus the needle, and push the water out like hell into my ears. It might take a few tries, but I always end with a massive, disgustingly colored glob of earwax in the tin that catches it. Then I realize I've been hearing at like 40% capacity for weeks, and it's a wonderful feeling being able to hear 100% again. Had a severe poison oak rash all over my upper arm and shoulder. It itched like mad. I went in the shower and turned the water to near scalding hot and blasted my poison oak rash with it. It felt so good, I had this weird full body orgasm. I was shuddering in pleasure as I stood in the shower. Back when capri pants were all the rage for ladies, I was wearing them while doing a tour of a banana plantation. I didn't see, hear, or feel any mosquitoes out there, but the next day I discovered that I had about 40 mosquito bites all over my calves and shins. It itched so bad I thought I might seriously injure myself. I went to take a shower thinking maybe blasting some ice water on my legs would help numb my nerves and give me some relief. It didn't. But when I got out, my friend handed me some Gold Bond medicated anti-itch lotion. I figured it's bullshit, but I'll try anything at this point. Plus I always put lotion on after a shower. So I'll just sub this special lotion for my normal shit. Rub the lotion all over my legs, and I swear to god in about 15 seconds it felt like 1,000 angels had descended from heaven to gently scratch my mosquito bites without injuring my skin. Absolute fucking miracle. Felt so good. If Mr. Gold Bond had been there I probably would have blown him to thank him. It was that good. If Mr. Gold Bond had been there I probably would have blown him to thank him. It was that good. Haha. That is quite an endorsement. I'll have to check this lotion out. Asthmatic. The first breath with an inhaler 12 hours after your asthma starts to bother you and you forgot yours at home. When you get that first full lung full of beautiful air. Or when the inhaler isn't cutting it. The first minute or so on a nebulizer. I was working to install some factory test systems in Newark, and was going home to Detroit the next day and didn't get any sleep that night because every time I would nod off my throat would basically collapse. Like apnea plus almost no lung capacity from an asthma attack. I must have used the rescue inhaler 50 times that night. When my flight got in my wife took me straight to the Nothing like a hometowner and a breathing treatment full of albuterol. Oh yes, the nebulizer. Noisy bastard was my guardian angel when I was young. Being able to breathe. The feeling of safety. Chef's kiss. Finally letting loose with a burstingly full bladder after a long car ride. Truth. Going for a pee when holding it in for ages is almost orgasmic. Especially when you're drunk. Almost. Bro, it's better than any orgasm ever. One time, I had a big stretch after a few hours sitting at my computer, and my back popped in 5 places. So good. After a headache of 2 days I managed to finally pop my neck. Sudden release of tension and the pain was gone. I wish all my headaches could be resolved like that. When you feel like you're gonna throw up, and the stomachache goes away when you burp. Oh my gosh, that's the best in the world. Especially because I'm super afraid of throwing up. I didn't know other people were like this. I get panic attacks when I feel like throwing up. The first time someone used one of those wirehead scratchers on my scalp. By god, I was making goat noises. It was awkward and yet so good. I'm laughing and imagining you at a mall kiosk. Theo, my friend. Have you ever had a headgasm before? Paying all bills off and having money to spare. Right? God, eating out with that extra money after cooking at home all week is such a treat. After cooking at home all week. My fiance and I were super frugal while I went through school that even now we'll order out somewhere maybe once a month and cook at home the rest. Feels weird to think about eating out that much. I'm not a very good musician, but I have had a few really great experiences with nailing some improvisational moments with a few friends. There's nothing quite like it. Holy shit, yes. Nothing like a really great jam and just being in the music. When you get water trapped in your ear canal and it finally releases. Unfortunately, every time I've had water in my ear, I've literally needed a surgery. So how do you bathe or swim? Hot shower after being cold, or, and hear me out, the opposite, on a really hot day stepping into a cool shower and just spending 10 minutes in there because it bring you back down to body temp. So good. Oh yes, that too. I was barely able to hear for almost 2 months thanks to a really bad infection I got after chemo. I woke up late in the afternoon and my eardrums just started spasming. Then all of a sudden I could hear. Hearing again basically made me cry out of joy. 1. But the eardrum spasming was oddly pleasurable. 1. There was a possibility I was gonna need surgery that might cause permanent damage, plus not being able to hear music in a very stressful time wasn't great. That and I listen to music on a daily basis for probably a solid 8 hours out of my awake time in a day. It helps with my anxiety. Given that the feeling of an orgasm is a specific muscle rhythmically contracting, your ears literally came. They came. They heard. They conquered. Stepping out of heels, or scratching under the top of socks/bra strap, or just taking the bra off the instant I get home. Oh yes, and the feeling when you rub your scalp after taking out a tight ponytail. Farting really loudly when no one's around. Farting really loudly when everyone is around. To establish dominance. Rubbing my head after it's been buzz cut. First breeze or driving with the windows down after a fresh fade gives me the goozes. The goozes. Popping a joint after it's been sore for a while and getting a sudden flood of pain relief. Similar to this. About 10 years ago, when I was still working as a bartender, I was talking to some of the guys who worked there about my back bothering me. One of the bouncers, who was a pretty huge guy, was like, "Let me see." So he felt around on my back for a second and said, "Feels like you've got a walnut stuck in here." Then he just like jammed his knuckle into the spot really hard for a couple seconds, and I swear it felt like a warm waterfall went down my back. The pain and knot were gone, and it just felt like warm comfort. No one gonna talk about the feeling when you rub your eyes and you can't stop. It feels like an eye orgasm, and they squeak too. At least mine do when I rub them. When I rub mine, my eyelids get filled with air bubbles that pop when you rub them further. Abdominal pain going away and looking thinner after letting out a long airy fart. I love that feeling. OMG, it feels like my stomach is deflating. Remembering the right answer for a test. Oh man. On the same level, I majored in computer science in college, and one time I spent like 5 weeks, 8-10 HRS/day 7 days a week trying to figure out why my program would randomly not work when it worked so perfectly all the other times. I crawled so deep inside my brain picturing the code in my head, and when I finally figured out what was causing those random failures, it was a total braingasm. Hopped on the computer, edited a few lines of code, and bam, ducking solved. I've never faced anything so intellectually challenging in my life since then. Not even in real life work, mainly because real life work is very different than academic setting work. So it was so satisfying to debug that one thing in my head that one time. Many of my friends are CS students, and it's so fun to just see their face change when they realize what's wrong with their code. I swear, I don't think I've ever felt as much joy as a devoted programmer finally debugging their code. Getting into clean sheets with freshly shaved legs. You put freshly shaved legs in your bed before you get in? That's creepy. Stay out of that guy's crawl space. Drinking cold water when you're very dehydrated. Eating the food you've been craving and it's actually satisfying. Edit, and actually getting food out of your teeth. Sneezing. Same. In one of those sun sneezes. And a great sneeze after leaving a dark movie theater feels incredible. Sun sneezer gang. I had 2 huge plastic stents placed into each nostril for an entire month after surgery to fix my septum. The month was ducking dreadful. I finally went in to have them removed at the end of the month, and the doctor pulled them both out along with massive clots of bloody boogers. Holy duck. That first 15 minutes after was like heaven on earth. I teared up and had a big fat smile on my face walking out of the hospital. It was such an amazing feeling. Reminds me of getting my braces off. Couldn't stop running my tongue over my straight teeth and feeling how smooth they were after a couple of years of ugly metal all over my teeth. Nearly 40 years ago now, and still a clear and happy memory. Closing all the Chrome tabs after a long uni project. God, I feel this. I love it when I get to close all 5 windows with 20 tabs each after each term. Probably the most cathartic thing I've done ever. I do this every week with work. From day to day, I keep my tabs and documents open, just sleeping my PC. Then on a Friday afternoon, I close everything down and shut down the PC. It's the only way I know I've achieved anything. People playing with my hair. I always can't help but roll my eyes up out of satisfaction. It's weird that I do this, that's why I don't like people caressing my hair. Edit. Thank you for the award. Oh, I love a good scalp rub. You know how every cat or dog has that one little spot that kinda makes them so happy they drool a little? Yeah, I don't let most people scratch my scalp. At the salon where I used to get my hair cut, they had this one guy who worked there who had the biggest, strongest hands. One time he gave me a shampoo, and I had the goofiest grin on my face. It was pure ecstasy. His magic hands were missed when he moved up to hairstylist and stopped doing shampoos. It turns out a few little old ladies would try to bribe him to still give them their shampoos when they came in. He refused. Haha. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.